Yo, what is going on, guys? In today's video, I'm super excited. We're going to be checking out the cheapest and most expensive airsoft rifles. We're going to be starting out with a $20 airsoft rifle and working our way up all the way to a $1,000 airsoft rifle. So without further ado, let's jump straight in.
Let's see what $20 actually gets you. Got some fun brown paper. Obviously nothing in here. Without further ado, let's actually go ahead and see what we got. This is the whole package. So for 20 bucks, obviously not expecting too much, but this is basically what you're gonna get. This is HFC, obviously, is the brand. And this guy actually, funny enough, is a electric airsoft gun. So without further ado, let's actually see what this guy looks like. So the first thing I actually noticed is obviously the gun itself. This picture is literally not even the same gun at all. It's like a completely different model. I actually freaked out. I was like, I didn't even order this one, I don't think. But basically, they just indicate which one you ordered by that little red dot. But you don't even get what gun you actually bought on the box, which is pretty funny. This guy is super cute. I mean, look at this little guy. Aww. The only thing else in the actual case you get is obviously these little yellow BBs. With this price point, obviously, I'm pretty sure you can use this in this guide. It doesn't even really matter. I bet you're wondering actually how this guy is powered. Down in this little foregrip, I'm pretty sure you put 4 AA's to actually power this guy. It's not from a standard little battery you plug in. Nothing is really functional, like the mag release. You can't take off any of the parts. It's pretty much just like a solid block of plastic. So now actually, how do we put the BBs in to load it up? I'm guessing it's this little top compartment right here. You just slide this guy off right there. I'm guessing you just put the BBs in the top and they kind of feed into somewhere in here. I'm not actually really sure. Without further ado, let's actually chronograph this guy and see how it shoots. All right, the legendary $20 mini airsoft M4. Let's see what this guy's got. I kind of found out that just holding it kind of on full auto with your thumb and then, shooting it with your pointer finger is actually kind of the best way to do that. Obviously, accuracy is not the best thing with this guy. Nice. Got to do another magazine for the boys. It's funny how actually bad this thing is. All right, as you guys can see, I made a little tower with all of the guns in the video. This is going to be the second one we're going to do. This one, it comes in at about $30. I'll go ahead and actually name all the prices now, but feel free not to remember. I will restate the prices as we're going along. It gets more expensive as we go down. That's $50. This one's $100. This one's $220. This one's $320. Jumping all the way to the next one is $600, and then the last one, obviously, $1,000. All right, so what does about $30 give you in airsoft? Let's actually go ahead and see what this guy's got. So obviously, starting out with the box, you got some cool little statistics on the back for the airsoft gun, and then the front, they did some kind of cool animations along the side of the box too. So for 30 bucks, actually not too bad with the actual animations in the box quality. Obviously it's just cardboard, but at least they tried with some of the cool graphics. Moving into the box, let's see what we got. All right, so obviously all these will come with a construction manual as well. Throughout the video, I'm actually going to be shooting and chronographing all of the guns in the video, so you'll get to see their actual FPS and obviously how they shoot for POV and a side profile as well. So pretty fun. First up, it looks like we have some BBs from Crossman, I guess. 500. All right, so first up, we got some Crossman premium ammo. It says 500 .12s. I'm sure they're premium ammo. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic because these are obviously not very good quality, and you definitely don't want to use these in the $1,000 airsoft gun down there. For 30 bucks, these are probably fine to use in the airsoft gun itself. Looks like it also comes with a little magazine as well. So these magazines are actually kind of interesting. So you basically just slide this, put the BBs in there, and then basically you have to pull this spring all the way down, and then it locks at the bottom like so. And then you guys can see there's a little hole kind of in the magazine itself. This actually just feeds the BBs from this big compartment actually into this little other compartment where the actual spring just feeds the BBs into the airsoft gun. Probably the cheapest way you can do it, but I guess it works for a $30 gun. Quite interesting too, they actually separated the stock and the gun itself. This guy's super light, all plastic, not very nice by any means, but for 30 bucks, can't really go wrong. The safety actually works, which is kind of nice. And then obviously the fire on the top where the semi is supposed to be, and then the full auto, they're obviously both the same because it's spring. You can actually see the gun actually like go back when I shoot it, kind of cool. All right, so let's put that stock on there. There we go. It just locks in right there, kind of completing the whole black and tan look. Pretty nice. Oh wow, so the stock actually goes back, which is kind of nice too. Does it have different positions? Yep. Obviously you can put it all the way back and put it all the way forward, which is kind of nice. Some random rails on the side of the stock, which is kind of weird. I've seen that a few different times. And a weird little compartment right there. Maybe you can put more BBs. I don't know what you'd put in there. It's kind of interesting. At least it looks unique and is cool for, 30 bucks. It doesn't look too bad. Obviously from a far distance, you wouldn't even think this is a $30 gun, but obviously feeling it super light and it's spring, people will definitely know it's a $30 gun. Let's actually go ahead and see how this thing chronographs and see how this thing shoots for 30 bucks.
Pretty consistent, actually.
Well, pretty accurate, I guess. Something about backyard spring guns that are just so fun. Obviously there's no full auto, but for 30 bucks, this thing's actually pretty fun for a little backyard toy. All right, next up, this is going to be the $50 gun. So the biggest thing I'm guessing with this guy, the exterior I'm probably gonna think is not nicer than that $30 gun, but the cool thing is you get a variable hop up, which is very, very handy, and it is actually electric. So without further ado, let's actually go ahead and see what you get for 50 bucks. Obviously with these cheaper guns, sometimes they actually just put plastic over the whole thing, which I guess is sort of fun because you get to unbox like another part of the package itself, but you know, it's sometimes kind of annoying and it just obviously alludes to it being cheap, but kind of cool, I guess, because you get to kind of like peel it off like it's a brand new thing, so obviously kind of cool. But this thing looks like it comes with a lot of gadgets. I have a front foregrip, which is kind of nice. I just found out something kind of interesting. So basically, if you look closer, it actually is kind of missing something. It just looks off. But it looks like it actually comes with an extended outer barrel or even like some kind of silencer, which is pretty cool. You can actually just throw this guy on at the end. Or if you prefer a longer barrel look, you can actually put that on there as well. So I actually didn't really expect that with a $50 gun. I thought this thing would be actually pretty bad, but I guess it comes with some cool features. Obviously, it's all plastic and not like super well made. You can kind of tell by feeling it. Comes with a little sling too, so it's up to you if you want to trust that. The points are at the top right there, then at the bottom by the stock right there. It also comes with a little battery too, which is quite interesting. So that makes me think that this over here, either the flashlight it comes with, I didn't even know it comes with a flashlight, or this red dots that it comes with, actually one of these maybe is even functional and actually works with this battery. So I'll actually have to see what that goes with in a sec. I'm trying to get a way to actually like take this off quite harder than you would think. I ended up actually scrolling this top off and well, I might have broke it, might have not, but at least you could see the cute little bulb right there. So there it is. Probably has a negative output of lumens, but oh well. Looks like it just slides off right here. Bruh. So I guess you just put 3 AAAs in there, not the battery that I was thinking about. Probably a waste. This thing probably doesn't even do anything, but I'll do it for the meme and see how bright this guy actually is. Wow. Got some little white BBs as well, so there you go. These actually might be worth using. Looks like you also get some safety glasses, which is actually kind of cool. Don't think I've ever unboxed an airsoft gun that has safety glasses included, so it's kind of cool. Okay, there you go. I probably wouldn't actually trust these. Obviously, to play in a game, I'll actually shoot these real quick to see if they actually work, but I'm guessing they probably don't, so I would not trust these in a airsoft game. Personally, I probably still wouldn't use these in a game, but they did hold up better than I thought. So I'm guessing this little guy is actually for this little red dot sight. So obviously this thing isn't, you know, super nice looking, but it actually probably works. Nice. But the problem is that front iron sights obstructs the whole view of the sight anyway, so it's pretty much pointless. This thing has lots of surprises. So what else do we have in here? So I guess you just plug this guy on the top like so, and then I guess you just take this little rod and actually force him into the mid-cap magazine like that. I've never seen a $50 gun come with a mid-cap magazine because there's no scrolly boy at the bottom. Not even guns that are like $200 or $300 sometimes don't come with mid-cap magazines, so that's actually kind of interesting. But without further ado, let's actually go ahead and see what this guy chronographs at and see what this guy shoots like. This thing all decked out, looking pretty snazzy. Let's go ahead and see what this thing's got. Oh yeah, that's a fake bolt, by the way. And a weird quirky thing too is actually you have to put this guy on safe and actually hold this little button on the grip as well to actually shoot this guy. Quite interesting. Super inaccurate. Oh, let's try some full auto. I guess a little bit more accurate than that first $20 Airsoft mini rifle, but this thing is absolutely horrendously accurate. But at least it looks kind of nice, and you might trick some people into thinking you have more of an expensive gun at a very far distance. All right, next up, we got the Dragon. All right, so again, this one is going to be a fully electric Airsoft gun. Oh, this is actually kind of cute little animations for the safety stuff. So I do like when companies actually put the extra effort in and do something like this. Actually kind of funny. I don't know why a baby would have an Airsoft gun, but that's a thing. But again, this is the $100 Airsoft gun, so moving up double in price there. Let's actually see what we got in this weird white box right there. Actually, I have no idea what this is going to be. There we go. Oh, I guess it's just the wall charger. So I guess this guy comes with a little wall charger, and then this is the actual battery itself. Just a little green boy, so kind of cool. This is a 8.4 volt 1200 milliamp battery. Nothing crazy. Low powered battery. Obviously 8.4s are pretty much the least you would ever use in Airsoft, I'm pretty sure. On jamming rod right there, or I guess you could use it as a little cleaning for the barrel as well. And I guess you have some cute little SRC branded box for BB, so that's kind of interesting. But what do we have here? So the Dragon, obviously first impressions, this is kind of like all shaky, and obviously you could probably like squeeze it and like break it. This thing kind of feels super like, yeah, you could hear it. Not the best quality, but obviously for $100, the thing is pretty much full plastic. Obviously from the weight, obviously in person, you could actually tell this thing is a lot heavier than that $50 gun. And I'm pretty sure obviously the gearbox is a full metal gearbox. So obviously stepping it up a notch with the internals. Let's talk about the magazine for a sec. So obviously it says their logo down there. Got this kind of cool little texture on the side, and obviously these little like lined up ones on the ends right there. So pretty cool. This is a high cap magazine. Obviously you put the BBs in there. You scroll at the bottom to get them to go to this big compartment all the way to the little feed system. And then obviously you just kind of scroll them up like so. And then they kind of feed up into the little feeding lip, and obviously that plugs up to the actual little hole right there. That is the end of the hop up. So there you go. You guys will see the difference between a $50 electric gun and then stepping it up to a full metal gearbox $50 gun. So without further ado, let's go charge this battery, power this guy up, see what the chronograph's at, and see how it shoots. Bruh. All right, the $100 Dragon. Let's see what this guy's got. Oops, just stopped working. Okay, obviously it's got super bad semi-automatic response. It sounds horrendous, and obviously it's not very consistent with you know, how it works. And I tried my best to charge the battery. It doesn't really say how long you're supposed to charge it, so I just charged it for a few hours there. So I think that's supposed to be full charge, but I'm not really sure. I could have to have charged it for 8 hours. I have no idea. But obviously, aside from the horrendous sounds, this thing is a little bit more precise and kind of you know, consistent with the actual accuracy versus the $50 gun. So let's go ahead and jump to full auto and see what this guy's got. It's pretty funny. I can probably shoot faster on most of my nicer guns with the semi-automatic than this guy can do on full auto. Pretty funny. Super slow, but at least it's trying. Oh boy, this thing's not the greatest. All right, we are not messing around anymore. This is a $220 Airsoft rifle. So obviously this guy is a classic army. I guess I almost just threw that across my yard. Anyway, let's go see how this guy looks for $200. Obviously this is where you kind of get into more of the serious Airsoft guns at that price point. You get some stuff that is pretty competitive on the field. Obviously a little bit more of the beginner end, the price point that usually most fields use as the rental rifles. Obviously you get a little bit more of a kind of nice looking little packaged safety manual from Classic Army right there. But this is what this guy looks like. Kind of cool actually. Oh, I didn't even realize this had this cool little stock. Stepping up about twice the price again. Let's see what we got for the magazine. Looks like about the same. So obviously a high cap magazine. It's got some cool little texture on the bottom right there. Kind of looks like it is thinner on the top, and then obviously it gets more beefy at the bottom. But once you put it into the gun itself, it actually kind of looks really nice. Before we get into the gun, actually it looks like we have a little cleaning / unjamming rod and some little white BBs too. I'm actually not sure at this price point if you would want to use these, but it's probably fine. But why risk it? I think these might be a little bit more cheap than you would want to use. All right, but getting that out of the way, here is the gun itself. So first things I kind of noticed obviously was the weight, but not only the weight being a little bit heavier than the previous one, it just feels a lot more solid. So once you get to this like $200 price point, the guns just start kind of feeling a little bit more solid and put together and just, I guess, a little bit better engineered, if you will. All right, let's go ahead and actually talk about some of the gun's features. First up, starting at the top, obviously you got a full rail. You can put whatever optic you want. It looks like it has full metal iron sights, which is really nice, and they flip up and down. So if you're wondering a little red dot sight on the top right there, you can just have those down, and then obviously if the red dot sight explodes randomly on the field, you can just pop these guys up real quick and you'll have some backup iron sights. It's got a little kind of circle at the back and then kind of like a little half circle and a dot in the middle. I believe this is the only thing on this gun that is full metal besides the gearbox and the motor, I believe. Obviously a full key mod rail, so if you have key mod segments, you can kind of put whatever you want on this rail, or grips, or even like flashlights, lasers, whatever you would possibly want. Adjustable motor, so that's pretty nice. You can adjust the height of the motor. Sometimes it makes it sound a little bit better and cycle the gears a little bit better, so that's obviously kind of nice that they have a adjustable motor. Obviously sometimes you don't really want to touch that, but if it gets a little bit undone and kind of like rotates, your motor will actually go up and down and not basically touch the gears like they are supposed to. It will sound like it's screeching like a banshee. So sometimes you actually just end up putting a little bit of glue down there to like make sure it is solid and not moving around. But sometimes, like if you're shooting on full auto, this little screw will kind of like undo itself, and then obviously the gun will sound terrible and you will definitely know if it's shooting bad. Little tip for you guys, actually, if you have a adjustable motor. But let's talk about this really cool stock at the back real quick. So obviously the unfortunate part is it's only all the way collapsed down or all the way collapsed up, but I guess that's kind of what you would want anyway. You probably could just Dremel your own little notches. So sometimes it's actually kind of nice having like a smaller buttstock, because obviously you don't really need to utilize the whole thing because there's no kickback. But obviously sometimes it feels weird, so it's kind of personal preference. Some people prefer it because you don't have to utilize the whole thing on your shoulder, and you can kind of like get into different angles like you wouldn't normally be able to. At the same time, some people just don't like the feel of it. It's just kind of weird and small versus normal ones. It actually comes with a rotary hop up now, which is kind of nice. Obviously the other one is kind of, you have to rotate that little wheel sideways and it's just super hard, but this guy just kind of makes your life a lot easier. But $200 is definitely an interesting price point, so I'm very curious to see how this thing actually shoots versus a $100 airsoft gun. But without further ado, let's actually go ahead and get this guy chronographed and see how this thing shoots. Alright, about 220 buckaroos. Let's see what this guy's got. Alright, so at this price point, we finally got a kind of like a fully consistent gun. Definitely a way better step up than that $100 airsoft gun we just shot. And obviously it's not super fast and semi-automatic, but actually for 200 bucks, not too bad. Let's try some full auto now. Wow, a lot better than the $100 gun. This guy is definitely the price point you're going to be wanting to start, looking at for, especially if you're going to go to an airsoft field. But, backyard shooters, you can kind of choose whatever you want. But I do recommend starting out around this price point for going to play at an airsoft field. And obviously you get to go to the 9.6 batteries with this guy as well. Definitely helps a faster full auto and a snappier semi-automatic, definitely with a battery jump up like that. All right, F1 firearms. This one coming in at $330. This price point is definitely when you get to more of the nice stuff, full metal guns, cool little electronics and stuff like that. So let's actually go ahead and see what this guy looks like. Boy, oh boy, look at this thing. Holy. I actually ordered these kind of like a few months ago, I think, so I kind of forgot what I ordered, but this thing is nuts. Let's go ahead and start with the magazine before we get too ahead of ourselves. This one is pretty much the same as the other one. It has some cool texturing and as a high cap magazine too. Nothing really special. But with that out of the way, let's actually go ahead and see what we bought ourselves here. Obviously all this is going to be given away to club winners, so I'm not going to be able to keep this, but one of you lucky boys will be able to win this, so pretty cool. But geez, this thing looks insane. Holy crap. Okay, this thing is quite the airsoft gun. As you can see, it is a skeleton type gun. So basically you can kind of see the outer barrel kind of exposed right there. Even the gearbox itself, the bolt right there. So really cool, actually. I really like this. Okay, this is pretty sick. And obviously it's got a red and silver theme going on. So this thing looks absolutely insane. I'm assuming everything on this is full metal, maybe except for that motor grip, but this thing is crazy. Full metal rail, full metal lower and upper receiver, and I'm guessing this little stock thing is metal as well, obviously aside from maybe the plate at the back. Actually is pretty long too. Like this is, I'm not even sure how long this rail is, but this thing is definitely like a DMR kind of setup. All right, so actually both my GoPros just died, but I thought this would be a perfect timing to actually talk about the details of the actual skeleton style receivers and rails itself, because this is a little bit of a nicer camera with a nicer lens, so you'll be able to actually see what I'm talking about a little bit better. So skeleton
skeleton builds are one of my favorite with Airsoft. You can see all the little cool features you normally wouldn't be able to. Obviously, I'm just kind of like a nerd with some of the internal stuff, but it looks really, really cool if you know what you're looking at. There is a little hop-up chamber right there. This little cylinder kind of silver guy is the cylinder itself, actually, funny enough. You can see that little window and that little black plastic piece in there. That is the piston, so really cool. And obviously, the metal around this little cylinder guy is actually the metal gearbox itself. I actually want to show you guys something really cool. So obviously, you can see the magazine exposed to this little window on either side of the bottom receiver. This is the little top of the feeding lip of the magazine. This little guy is the bottom of the hop-up chamber, so you can actually see when the actual feeding lip of the magazine goes into the hop-up chamber, which is really, really cool. And obviously, most builds you can't actually see that. You can see the whole bolt system right there, which is really, really cool. So another thing I actually forgot to mention about the stock is actually how to access the battery. Obviously, there's this little button on the top. You actually just press that in like so. And then next up, you actually just rotate the buttstock all the way to a 90-degree angle and actually just take it off like so. So that's actually kind of nice. And it looks like it actually comes wired up to a Dean's connector. And these guys are obviously better than the standard Tamiya connectors, those kind of like yellow box looking ones. These are a little bit better, so that's obviously a good sign. So not only does this guy have absolutely insanely cool externals, this guy, if you flip it to semi, you actually notice there is a little switch to the trigger. You guys can hear that right there. Obviously, when I pull back the trigger, is that little switch sound. So that probably means this guy has some really nice internals, especially the electronics with that little switch sound. But without further ado, let's actually go ahead and see how this guy shoots.
All right, moving it up a couple notches with the $300 Airsoft gun. This guy shoots very nice, really consistent as well. Kind of the major thing I'm noticing with this guy, obviously for the price, everything's pretty good with this guy. It feels pretty nice. Construction is pretty decent, pretty consistent shooting. Basically the cycling speed and how fast the actual system keeps up with itself. Like I can't really press it as fast as I can on semi. It's kind of like lags a little bit. You probably can't notice on camera, but obviously I kind of notice you can't pull as much as you possibly can with this guy, but still very good. Let's try some full auto. Not too bad. Alright guys, we have the most expensive Airsoft guns in the whole video up next. This one is going to be $600 just for this one Airsoft gun. And then of course up next, the grand finale, the $1,000 Airsoft gun. So obviously first up, the box isn't anything crazy. It just looks kind of, you know, nice and professional, nothing over the top. I guess they have a little award right there, and then, you know, kind of just some cool stuff around the box, just kind of showcasing the gun itself and kind of their brand. All right, wow, this is a kind of a nice little like showcase of the gun itself. Really cool, very professionally, I guess, like displayed box, if you will. Obviously this is kind of on the higher end of Tokyo Marui's line. They kind of end up trying to display the gun in a more theatric way, if you will, for, you know, their higher end guns. But pretty cool. Obviously it just kind of gives you a little bit more of experience when you're unboxing their really nice stuff. I had a similar experience obviously with the nicest pistol they have, which is the $250 gold match high Kappa. They have a whole bunch of really cool like nerdy facts about the gun, like kind of why it was made, who it's made for, what areas it was made to intend to be used. Actually really cool. And they kind of have a similar thing over here with the mag, and has some other cool little facts about the actual real steel mag, so really cool. And they have a really fancy little holder for the actual instruction manual itself. Let's actually go ahead and see if there's anything really cool in there. Go ahead and take that guy out. CQBR, close quarter battle, pretty cool. Obviously nothing crazy, it's kind of just paper, but at least it has kind of cool like coloring to it. Yeah, just pretty much like, you know, how to use everything. And then let's see what else we got in here. And I guess this is a little bit more of a detailed kind of instruction manual right here. And I think it's all in Japanese, I believe, is what the language is. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it is Japanese. So pretty cool. It gives you kind of like a, you know, whole rundown of everything. Go ahead and see the magazine. I think a mid cap or, you know, low cap mag, I guess, if you will, maybe 30 rounds to 100 rounds, I'm guessing. Obviously you can kind of tell on the top right here, it looks a little bit more unique than normal Airsoft magazines. Obviously this thing feels really nice and has some cool trades on the bottom. Basically when you're out of BBs for the magazine, it'll actually not be able to pull the trigger back. So for most Airsoft guns, obviously if you're out of BBs, you can still continue to shoot on semi, but nothing will come out. But this guy, it actually will not let you shoot at all. So it's kind of like a mimicking kind of like a real steel gun. So it's actually really cool. I'm not actually sure what this is. Let's see. I'm actually gonna be honest, I have no idea what this is. This is like the first airsoft thing in a box that stumped me in a while. I actually have no idea what this is.
So with a little research, I actually did find out what this little guy is supposed to be for. This guy is actually an adapter that plugs into a charger that charges the proprietary battery that does not come with this gun. That's right, you heard me right. This $600 airsoft gun doesn't come with the battery. Not to mention the battery is super expensive as well. And it also doesn't come with the charger as well to charge the battery that it doesn't come with. So basically, you have to spend this amount of money on the charger and that amount of money on the battery, which is absolutely insane because you just paid $600 for this guy. Man, that's stupid. If you guys are actually curious how the proprietary battery system works, you basically just press in this fake nut on the stock. It actually opens up like so. And then see this kind of little box thing right there? Basically, you have a little battery system. I'll show you guys a picture right now. Kind of just slides in and plugs in right there. Actually, a good kind of, you know, system at first, but obviously when they don't include it and it's super expensive, and the charger isn't included, and that's also super expensive, it begins to kind of not make sense with this guy. So most people, I think, just transition this to a different battery system. But yeah, I'm super stupid. I thought this guy was wired up to Tamiya's or something like that, so I thought I had batteries for this guy, but I literally do not have a single battery that works with this guy. It is a proprietary one. So actually, we won't be able to shoot this guy. I was actually really excited to shoot this guy too, so it's super disappointing. Anyway, let's return to this video and give my final thoughts on this guy right now.
Actually, I gotta remove these straps, but let's go ahead and take out the gun and see what this guy feels like. Ooh, yeah, this feels high quality. This guy has a little cool foregrip already installed, which is really nice. This stock looks absolutely insane, really detailed, and looks very, very nice, honestly. Overall, my first impressions with this guy, this thing feels super well engineered and constructed. I think this actually might be my favorite feeling airsoft gun I've ever felt. That is a stock gun, I'm pretty sure. Everything just feels super solid and just kind of well built. It's got a standard kind of look to it, just like, you know, standard M4A1 carbine kind of look. The stock obviously looks really cool. It's got, you know, a full metal quad rail right there, so pretty nice. It obviously feels really good, but you know, it's nothing crazy, extraordinary or anything like that. It just feels super high quality. All the parts is made very well. It's got really cool little trades on it that look very fancy. Let's see what this guy looks like inside. Just a standard kind of rotary hop-up. Actually, this is an interesting one. Usually the actual dial for rotary hop-ups are very thin, but this one's like a huge chunky one, so it's obviously gonna be a lot easier to use and probably a lot more precise as well. Actually, to take my gloves off to take this guy off, but basically this guy has a little opening flap on the stock. Again, I have absolutely no idea what you would put in this guy, but I guess you have a little extra compartment in the stock itself. So obviously the biggest thing to take away from this guy, obviously the previous $330 M4 was full metal as well. This thing is pretty much full metal too, but this thing definitely steps it up a notch with the actual feel of the gun. It just feels so much more solid and high quality, and I guess realistic, if you will. It just steps it up to a whole nother level as far as the externals go. And I guess under this little case too, it actually has a unjamming rod, maybe a feeding rod to actually be able to use the magazine, so that's pretty cool. Has this little cap for the end of the barrel, and I guess some weird looking BBs. This kind of look more like a yellow BBs or even like tracer BBs compared to the standard white ones you normally get. All right, people, going to the finale, the $1,000 airsoft gun. Let's see what we got in this guy and what makes this guy so special and so expensive. Gotta flip this boy around. Let's take it out and show you guys a little bit more of a detailed look. So this is actually what we're working with. At first glance, you're like, okay, that's a standard looking MK18, so nothing crazy, but this thing has a lot more than meets the eye. Going over the externals first though, we have a beautiful bronze rail up here, really nice. This is a MK18 style M4. It's got a really nice flip up iron sights on the top right there, and on the back, those are obviously full metal, look very nice. It's obviously a circle in the back, and we have a really cool trident looking guy at the front. Got these tan little rail covers, just kind of making it all match together and look really nice. So the actual base of this guy for the external is a VFC MK18. It's got really nice little trades, and obviously the body of this guy and the feel of it overall is super solid and feels absolutely really nice. But obviously, what makes this thing so darn expensive? This thing started out at a $400 gun. From going to a $400 to a $1,000 gun, I mean, what is that $600 made of? That is actually from the, you know, inside of the gun. This thing is absolutely insane from the inside. Obviously, it has a Prometheus hop-up right there and a max trigger, kind of giving away some of these surprises inside this guy. It feels similarly well constructed in that $600 gun, but this thing actually is a lot lighter because of some of the lightweight stuff on this guy inside. You can look at the nice externals all day, but this guy's all about how it shoots, obviously, with the cool stuff inside. So without further ado, let's go chronograph this guy and see how this thing shoots. All right, no more messing around. We're going straight to the $1,000 gun. Let's see what this guy's got. Some of you might think that's full auto, but that is just semi-automatic response. Super snappy, and basically what the ultimate version of what you would want for an airsoft gun would be. Obviously, super consistent as well. Also, you can pretty much shoot this guy as fast as you possibly can pull the trigger. So let's go ahead and actually see how fast I can shoot this guy. Absolutely insane. That's faster than most guns full auto, and that's just semi-automatic. But let's switch it up and go to full auto and see what this guy's got. Basically, this looks like a pure beam of BBs. This guy's actually shooting faster on full auto than this magazine can actually feed the BBs, so I'm guessing it's shooting probably like around 30 BBs, but this guy can probably have a output of around 40 or plus BBs per second. Obviously, this thing can shoot super fast on semi-automatic and full auto. That's obviously super fun, but on the field, you also want this thing to be super consistent. This thing has really good range, really good accuracy, really precise as well. It's pretty much everything you can want into an airsoft package. Obviously, you would expect that with the $1,000 price tag, but this guy is very, very nice.